Okay, he's real.
You're real, and we're back. We're in the studio, and we have a table. We have a desk.
And we have one of the most iconic NASCAR race teams of all time.
We do. And today, we're actually going to be talking about, historically, one of the more iconic races in NASCAR history, or, well, it used to be.
Depends on who you ask.
That being said, today, we're talking about the Brickyard 400. So, I think what people forget nowadays is just how huge of a deal it was that NASCAR got to go to Indianapolis in the first place. Everyone knows the magnitude of the Indy 500, and I think a lot of NASCAR fans lie to themselves and say that they know the importance of the Brickyard 400, but this is NASCAR, 1994, NASCAR is on the rise. They haven't peaked yet, and they're going to the most iconic racing setting in the world, right? And honestly, this event, and again, people forget this, but it started off hot. I mean, the first decade or so of the Brickyard was pretty iconic.
1994, the first race there, we saw the young hotshot Jeff Gordon, which in a clip on the Dale Jr. download this week, you might have said Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt were just realizing they had to worry about him, and this was the shot heard around the world because everybody wanted to win this first race in a stock car at Indianapolis. In fact, A.J. Foyt came out of retirement during this race, and there was over 80 entries to get into this race. Imagine 80 cars showing up to a NASCAR track today.
Yeah, which we can't,
Thanks, charter system. Ernie Irvan was leading late in the going, but Jeff Gordon made a daring move into 3 to take the lead, and he took the first Brickyard 400, and it would actually be kind of poetic because he'd become the most dominant driver in the history of this race, depending on who you ask.
Absolutely, the Indiana kid takes over. We'll talk about another Indiana kid who becomes synonymous with this race, but then, of course, the very next year, we talk about those drivers that wanted to win it. Big E got his.
Yeah, he became the first man to win the Brickyard 400, as he said, in victory lane. Dale Earnhardt won in 1995, and the next year, one of the most important traditions in NASCAR was cemented when Dale Jarrett would kiss the bricks in 1996 after winning the race. And then in 2002, we talk about final moments in NASCAR.
This is one of my favorites.
After years of struggling in the 94 car, being told that he couldn't do it anymore, Bill Elliott would go back to victory lane, winning his first ever Brickyard 400 in the 9 car, and then some moments you want to talk about.
All right. So we talk about people and Indiana kids becoming synonymous with this track. Of course, Jeff Gordon, I believe he won this race 3 times. No. I'm talking about 3 times in leading up till 2001 alone. Or was it 4?
I think it was 3. It might have been 4. Well, fact check us on that, actually.
I think he actually might have won that race.
We'll talk about his 5th one later. But
we'll talk about that later. But the other Indiana kid that, of course, became synonymous with this track, Tony Stewart. Now, Tony Stewart's career, we talk about him not getting crown jewels, right? Tony Stewart never got the Daytona 500. And he never got the Indy 500. He got so close to both. I don't know that anybody in the history of racing has gotten as close combined to winning these crown jewel races as many times as Tony Stewart did without getting the win. But Tony Stewart would finally in 2005 get his win at the Brickyard, and then he would also get another one 2 years later, producing some of the more iconic moments in NASCAR history. I mean, everyone knows the "Here Kitty Kitty" line on the radio to Kevin Harvick because he was chasing him down late. Dale Jr. led the bulk of that race and probably should have won that race, but that's aside from the point. And then, of course, his iconic, but he had his iconic post-race interview, which I don't think anybody would trade for anything, talking about everything his fans have had to go. No, you wouldn't. Anyway, that being said, now we're at 2007, and we're 13 years into this race's existence, and mostly without a hitch. We did by 2005 start calling the race, the All-State 400 at the Brickyard.
Well, they had the cool All-State commercials then, so it was okay.
That is true. So, that being said, we got to talk about 2008.
So, leading into 2008, there was obviously in 2007 half the races were in with the car tomorrow. So obviously with it being a different car, we all know how bulky and ugly it was, but it led to new tire compounds. And for the most part, this worked. We saw probably a little bit more tire failures throughout the season, but nothing like what we were about to see, similar to how you saw with the next gen in 2022. But going into this race, there was already concerns because drivers could only run like 5 to 10 laps in practice without something terrible happening. But NASCAR is going to let it ride. They were going to go 30 laps, have a competition caution like at the time when it would rain before we had stage breaks. So now there's no need for competition cautions. Thank God they stopped that. But then their fears will be realized early on in the race when a former Brickyard 400 winner and a future Indy 500 starter would crash right at the beginning with the tire failure. Kevin Harvick and Kurt Busch, with 2 contenders, would be taken out of the race due to tire failure. But maybe this was just a flash in the pan on some of the cars. Maybe the camber was messed up. No, because then just a few laps later, leader and dominator so far of this race, Dale Jr. would blow a tire, but he would be one of the few that would get away scot-free. He would not go into the wall. He would save it. He would pit. But then probably the most famous picture from this race would happen laps later when Matt Kenseth's tire just exploded. You can go look up a picture of that car. It might be right here.
I'll put it right here.
It's just horrific. But for the rest of this race, there was really, like, Jimmy Johnson had the lead at this point. There was no way anybody could pass him because we would go 10-lap runs, NASCAR would have to throw the caution. Because at the time, guys, they're going 205 down these straightaways. We can't have somebody just slam into the wall. This was, like, a real danger. But it ruined this race.
Yeah, and when we say it ruined this race, we don't mean it ruined the 2008 Brickyard 400. We really can go back to this moment and say, wow, this event really was never the same after 2008. That's not to say that 2008 is the sole reason the Brickyard fell off. I think it might have highlighted or started to highlight some problems that people had already had. Like, for instance, the Brickyard 400 at no point in its history was known for incredible on-track action. I thought it was fine racing, and I think at this period of time, with the handling of the cars being so important and also it being so visible, like we talk about this car right here, the reason a lot of mile-and-a-half races were interesting is because it was very visible on TV just how difficult these cars were to drive and just how fast the sport was. Then we got the car tomorrow, dropped the car right to the ground, and that started to go away. So, I mean, we talk about that there are some moments between 08 and we're going to 2017 here, spoiler alert, that we talk about. We have Juan Pablo nearly getting it done in 09.
Another famous rant over the radio, NASCAR, yeah. I'm going to kill you, by the way.
Yeah, which underrated Juan Pablo moment in general. Juan Pablo also 2009, just very underrated season in general. But also then we got Jamie McMurray won it in 2010. Paul Menard won it in 2011. Who won this thing in 2012?
Two of the most feel-good wins. I don't know who won in 12. Well, I know Newman won 13.
Did Jimmy Johnson win it in 2012?
Probably because he has 4 Brickyards. I was trying to figure out where they go.
I believe Jimmy Johnson won the race in 2012.
He will be in the race this weekend, but he will not be winning it.
No.
But then 2014, one of the most important moments in this race's history, Jeff Gordon scores the 5th Brickyard 400 win, putting him alone at the top of NASCAR drivers here.
Yeah, and then we also have, I want to say, Kyle Busch won this thing in 15. By the way, Ryan Newman won it in 13.
Yeah, Kyle Busch did.
Was that Newman's last win for SHR?
It was. He was in the Spurs car.
SHR. Yes, that's right. Point is, the race produced some okay moments, but it just was not to the magnitude of the event that this thing was. And the mic shut off, but that's okay. We're doing it live, as long as we can be heard on the video playback.
Yes.
Let's talk to the camera. Put the microphone down.
Okay.
We're addressing the camera right now.
And we're having chaos. You want to talk about chaos in this race?
Let's talk about chaos. Let's talk about 2017.
Casey Kane would win his final race in one of the most races that I've ever seen.
I thought you said racist.
No.
And I was like, whoa.
Guys, I just want to put this in perspective. I can tell you how many crashes there were. I can tell you that Matt Benedetto finished top 10 in this race in a go-fast racing car. I can tell you all that stuff. You can go watch the Clint Boyer Kurt Busch crash and how just horrible it is. But Jimmy Johnson, and what would have been his final win, by the way, because Casey Kane won a race since Jimmy Johnson has, which is incredible. Jimmy Johnson went for the lead while blowing up.
A bonsai move. Didn't pay off, but it was pretty cool.
He was going to take the lead while blowing up. That's how damaged all the cars left in the race were.
Yeah, this was utter chaos. It was a stark contrast to what the perception of the race had been to this point, because the whole thing was the Brickyard 400 is boring. There's no passing, this, that, and the third. And, well, I mean, the 2017 Brickyard at least wasn't boring. It was a chaotic mess.
Thanks to Martin Truex and Kyle Busch taking each other out, because it was a snooze fest before that, let's be honest.
Yeah, that is true. And also, in an alternate reality, Kyle Busch may have 3 of these things.
Yeah, he might get his third on Sunday.
Anyway, that being said, so 2017 happens, and let's be real, that's the inflection point. I believe 2017 is where NASCAR finally maybe highlighted the Brickyard and said, okay, we got to do something here, because if this race, what we just saw, has the fans going, well, who's the best Brickyard in 10 years?
There's a problem.
We have an issue. So that being said, Matt, I genuinely, I don't know if I can name a single Brickyard moment from 18 or 19.
I don't either. I just know that 2020 was objectively a great race.
Yeah, 2020, awesome race. The Brickyard 400 in the year 2020 was one of, in my opinion, the highlights of the season.
We had a 3-wide battle between Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick the entire race, and then Matt Kenseth, who came out of retirement and was struggling that year,
nearly got another win.
Kellen's rocketing through the field, but there was constant battles throughout the race. Yes, Kevin Harvick was clearly the dominant car of the day, and that beautiful Busch-like patriotic
one of the
paint
best
scheme.
paint schemes ever.
I believe this was his second Brickyard win. I think he only has 2, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But we got to see.
Yeah, I believe he only had 2 because he had the one in 03.
But it was kind of satisfying. You saw the best driver of the season win one of the biggest races, but it wasn't the biggest race anymore.
No, and again, you take this exact race, drop it in, I don't know, 2006, right? One of the highlights of the 2006 is a great year, by the way. But
most underrated NASCAR season, and I'm okay with saying that.
Probably, I would say that has to be true because I've never watched a race from 2006 that I didn't like. But you drop this race in any other era, and this is headlining SportsCenter.
Yeah.
This has fans talking, in December, like, wow, do you remember the Brickyard 400? But in 2020, it's, we gotta fix the Brickyard, we gotta stop going here, or we gotta start running on the road course.
And we fixed it. And then let's talk about what happened in 2021 when they fixed it. One of the most embarrassing moments in NASCAR history.
The 2021 Indy Road Course. It's an embarrassment. I don't know how else to put this thing. Guys, the track broke.
Go look that up. The 2021 Indy Road Course big one. Type that in your YouTube bar. He's not lying to you. The track broke and everyone crashed.
The rumble strips, they came up. And by the way, how many restarts did it take them to finally fix it?
It was like 3, wasn't it?
There was 3 restarts. They legitimately, you just knew watching it that they're gonna wipe out going into the chicane.
The end of the race is an embarrassment because they black flag Chase Briscoe. They don't really inform him, so he wrecks Denny Hamlin, and then AJ Allmendinger, which we love, gets like I would like using Mickey Mouse win.
Yeah, we love AJ Allmendinger, but yeah,
the
one
next
of the
year,
Mickiest, Mousest wins of all time, and this is in a series that features Austin Dillon. Shout out LA Productions.
And then the next year, it might be worse. They keep wrecking. Ross Chastain cuts the course.
Oh my God.
And then, I'm sorry to offend you here, but guys, the top 5 had Todd Gilliland, Bubba Wallace on a road course before he got better at them, and Harrison Burton. That's how bad this race was. And then last year, it was fine. We had the Ty Dillon. Oh no, that was the year before. That was that race.
Yeah.
The Ty Dillon Kyle Larson crash.
Yep.
Last year was the battle between McDowell and Elliott. So it was a good race.
Was last year? Did Ricky Stenhouse commit some terrorism in that race?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kobayashi. You probably don't want to go back to America because of what Ricky Stenhouse has done to you the last 2 years. But he's real patriotic.
Yeah,
but
he's real patriotic.
What is the importance of this 2024 race?
Well, in the year of our Lord 2024, NASCAR is finally deciding to go back to the oval, and with the current car producing fairly good, I think this car is probably the most consistent on ovals we've seen since the late car of tomorrow, that the Champ like the 2012 car. So if we can get a comparable race to what we would get back in the early 2010s even, I'm fine. I would love it. To be honest with you, as much as underdog winners are cool, I would love it if the person that wins this thing goes on to win the championship or something like that, or if it's one of the sport's biggest, actually, not even just the championship thing. What would be awesome if a guy like Chase Elliott, if he won this.
Or like when we were talking about with the Daytona 500 when William Byron won, it was cool to finally see a star of the sport win it. And I want to have a little trivia question because you talked about champions. Of the 27 Brickyard 400 winners, how many of them went on to become NASCAR champions?
In that season?
No, just alone.
Ooh, okay. So, obviously, Jeff. Are we counting people who had already won championships before?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff, Dale, Dale Jarrett, Ricky Rudd never got one. Bill Elliott had won one. Kevin Harvick had won one. Bobby Labonte, I think he won it in 2000. Didn't he win the Brickyard in 2000?
Jeff Gordon was 01.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon was 01. Obviously Jimmy.
So for this stat, they were counting people who had already. So it's like each win. So like Jimmy Johnson each time that counts as a champion.
So out of 27, how many was it?
22. And we just named Jamie Murray, Paul Menard, and Casey Kane. So there's only 2 other winners in the history of this race that have not won a NASCAR championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty absurd. I'm trying to think. Who are the drivers you just named? The 3 that we.
Oh, well, we named Ricky Rudd, so that's 4. So Ricky Rudd, Paul Menard, which is crazy. Ricky Rudd didn't win a championship. Casey Kane, Jamie Murray. There's one more that had not won a championship.
Who? Oh, this is tough.
Did Ernie Irvin ever? He did not.
Yes, he did.
He won a Brickyard?
I'm pretty sure Ernie Irvin won the Brickyard. Did he win it in 97?
Maybe he did. Maybe Yates went back to back.
Because, like, I don't know if anybody else remembers this, and this will be, like, kind of the last point in the video. Does anybody remember, like, NASCAR images? They would do year in review, and they had the smoke movie. They also had one for the Brickyard when they were coming up on the 10-year anniversary of it. I feel like Ernie Irvin won.
Maybe that was like, that could have been like, because I know obviously the biggest moment after his injury is the Michigan win, but maybe that was the other moment. Because there is another big moment, a big race that he wins after his injuries. And then he gets hurt again, sadly, but I think we're right. We're going to go with Ernie Irvin here.
We're going to say Ernie Irvin, and we will pop up that winner.
It's Ernie Irvin, isn't it?
It's Ernie Irvin, right? This is Ernie Irvin.
Let's hope so, because he came very close to winning the inaugural race. But point of this being is, it is very important for NASCAR that this 2024 race goes good. Because I'm telling you, if we have another 2008, this race is probably ruined forever.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. If this race is a dud, I'm not saying that they're going to take it off the schedule. Well, they're not going to take it off the schedule next year, because we already have next year's schedule. But
well, we have the rumored
schedule. But, like, if the Brickyard doesn't perform, unfortunately, NASCAR might abandon Indianapolis altogether. I can't imagine they'd abandon the market. And honestly, personally, I think we should go to IRP anyway.
Trucks go there.
I think we should. I think maybe the Cup Series at IRP would be awesome. But
if we fix the short track package.
Well, that's a whole other obstacle in our way. But that being said, first off, who do you think is going to win the Brickyard 400 this year? Because again, we finally have it back. But second off, what's your favorite Brickyard 400 moment? Not the road course stuff. I hope none of your answers would be the road course stuff
That's
anyway.
disgusting.
You're disgusting. You need help.
Look at this beautiful car before we leave. Just look how beautiful it is. All right.
Yep. Up.
You've been Will. You're gonna say mine.
Yeah. Okay. You go.
I was Matt. He just.
No, say who I am.
That is William Harrison Burgess.
And that is Matthew J. Alverson.
And this has been a random episode of Something on Mediocre Productions, or Network of Sports, whatever you want to call it.
MNS. Thanks for watching.